It's candidates night. My name is Tim Mabey. I'm an outgoing board member, so one of you are going to replace me. A couple introductions real quick. Board President Bob Lucas is here. We've got board members Larry Sheldon, I saw Cheryl, and Sam Summers. Bob, Sam, and myself are the outgoing board members. I'd like to thank General Manager, especially the Assistant General Manager, for all the work that they do for the elections. I'd also like to thank the committee. I've got Allison Ward, Renee Bechtel, and when she could make it, Nancy Pohl. Yeah, exactly. One of our candidates, and so I'm going to read a statement verbatim here, and then I'll explain. Late last week, RMA received an email from candidate Gary Wolf, who said during the past few weeks some personal and family business issues have arisen that required some unexpected and significant adjustments in his plans and commitment for the near future. After careful deliberation, he decided to withdraw his candidacy for RMA board. So for those folks out there in television land, ballots have already been printed. You'll see his name on there. I'm not sure what happens if he wins. I'll kick that to the committee. But so for what it's worth, what I would tell Gary is please, as soon as he can, get back into it and participate and help out the community from that standpoint. A couple of ground rules. I see that a couple of the candidates have brought your own support group, so ladies, let's keep it down, okay? All right? I don't want any mudslinging, no name calling. Last year, we had a couple of candidates, or last time, a couple of candidates start pulling hair. None of that stuff, okay? We'll keep it above board. The way it's going to work is committee members are going to ask you the questions, and it goes in order. All of this has been provided to you. What we're going to do now is we will start on that side, work our way down, and it's the candidates' opportunity to introduce themselves. I do have a timer. We did purchase a hook this year, so just so it's not awkward for all of us, 3 minutes on the introduction. So I believe we're going to start with the young lady on the far side.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Good evening, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Stephanie Bianchi. I just wanted to take a few minutes to introduce myself so that you guys know who I am. I'm a mother. I have two small children. I have an almost 4-year-old and a 2.5-year-old at home. That's one of my primary responsibilities. I'm also a wife. I work as a nurse practitioner and have for the past 14 years. I currently am employed at Kaiser full-time. Prior to that, I worked at UC Davis for 14 years. I'm also a daughter. My parents live in the community as well and are community members. I'm a friend. I have friends here in the audience. Thank you. And I'm also a community member. Things that I'd like for you to know about me that I feel that I would bring to the community and also potentially as a candidate for this position would be, I think I can represent multiple generations, which I feel is important in this community. Being a mother, sandwiched in the middle, I have young kids, so I feel that their interests are very important, as well as supporting the older generations in the community. I feel that that's very important. All of those are right in front of me on a daily basis, and I want to keep those in the forefront of my interests as I proceed. I also, being a mother and being a nurse and working, I value efficiency in the role, so I know that everybody's time is valuable, everybody's finances, that's very important to everybody, so I want everyone to know that those are my concerns as well as I know that they're the community's concerns. Other things that I feel that I would bring to the role would be transparency in my goals and my commitment to this role. I'm very open and honest and interested in hearing everybody's opinions and how things affect them in the community and what's important to them. The reasons that I'm running is basically pretty simple. I've always been overly involved in multiple activities, as you can tell. But I want to give back to the community. This started months ago when I had some own personal security concerns with my house, my family, that impacted my family. I came to some of the board meetings, got introduced to some of the board members, and tried to get involved during that standpoint. From that, of course, we all are aware on a bigger global issue, nationwide issue. I've seen, things that impact our country. Given the limitations of being a mom now, I'm not able to go out and volunteer my time as a nurse, so this is a way for me to give back to my community and be able to participate and be involved. Things that I want to represent are, the concerns, like I said, of the various generations in our community. You'll hear me reiterate that, as well as the fiscal concerns that many of you have, as well as me and my family has. That's, again, at the forefront of importance for me. I want children to be involved and support their activities, their growth, their futures for this very special environment that we have for them here in Rancho Murieta, as well as the older generations, and support amenities and activities for them as well. So that's me.
Thank you. Next is Joanne.
Hi, I'm Joanne Brandt, and I moved to Rancho Murieta in 1995, but my parents moved here in 1987. So I've seen the development of Rancho Murieta South, the arbors, and the building of the bridge between Rancho Murieta North and Rancho Murieta South. I've been a single mom, the mother of a teenage son in Rancho Murieta. I have an aging parent, and I worked for the state for over 20 years. While I was working for the state, I had 4 jobs that really were outstanding to me. The first job was when I was a tax collector. That's when I learned excellent communication skills. And then the next time I had an opportunity to work in training. And that's when I found out there's actually 3 ways that people learn. And that's important to take into consideration when you're trying to get your message out. The next job was when I was working with Department of Aging. We learned about seniors issues and how your needs change and what your priorities change as you grow older. And the last job that I had an opportunity to work with Accenture, which is a private industry company. And private industry is completely different than government work. So I always felt lucky that I did have that opportunity to work with them. I always enjoyed working with people and working in committees, just not the commute and the early morning hours. And I see this, with 4 seats being opened on the RMA board, as my opportunity to give back to the community that has given so much back to us. And if you vote for me and I'm elected, I promise I will do a good job. I will do my best to make fair decisions, and I lost my place. And I'll take my board position seriously. I have a website. It's joannebrandt80 .wixsite.com/rancho-murieta, and you'll see it on my signs. And on there you'll find letters to the county, links to important development projects that are going on in our area, environmental information, and much more. So I appreciate your support, and I hope everyone gets out and votes.
Thank you. Nicely done. Nicely done. Next up is Jim.
Good evening. My name is Jim Crowder. I was born and raised in Sacramento. I graduated from Sac State with a Bachelor of Science in Park and Recreation Administration. After that, I enjoyed a 32-year career in management with UPS. During my career with UPS, my role included budgeting, cost control, operational improvements, conflict resolution, labor relations, teamwork, and communication. During almost my entire career, I worked the graveyard shift, but despite that, I was always involved in the community. We raised a family of 2 children. I did 10 years of volunteering for special events for the Elk Grove CSD. I was also on the Elk Grove CSD graffiti abatement for the town hall. We also moved into a neighborhood, an HOA over in Laguna West, where we had an 11-acre park. And I noticed that there is no safe way for the kids and for the general public to cross the street because of the traffic. So I got a hold of Sac County Traffic Division, and after 9 months, they completed their study and they put in a 3-way stop, which made it perfect for all the neighborhood kids, and especially on the weekends when they had the soccer tournaments. I also served on an advisory committee for the Oak Grove CSD regarding reclaimed water usage. And water is a very important factor, especially right now in our community. And then finally, in Elk Grove, I started a process where I brought to the city council attention that they needed to change their soliciting codes. And after a year's study, they enforced the rules and they made it a little bit more stringent, so you had a little bit of privacy instead of having a solicitor coming at your door at 9 o'clock at night. This is the third HOA community that we lived in, and we chose Rancho Murieta for many of its amenities, and we just love it. You have the trails, you have the lakes, fishing, golfing, the abundance of nature, and just walking the community, which I've been doing for the last 10 days, it's so serene and calm. It's very enjoyable just to live here. I've always been involved in the communities where I've lived, and I feel that with my experience, my commitment, my desire, and time, I'd be a good member to be on RMA.
Thank you. Tom.
Hi, excuse me. My name's Tom Reimers. I've lived in a community for 15 years, my wife and I. We've owned homes both on the north and the south of the community. Since retiring, we've completed a large home addition as well as remodeled most of our house, from the ceiling, from the roof to the foundation. And I hope we're finally finished. I retired from the Department of Corrections 4 years ago, and my position was a facility mechanic. I worked in all phases of facility repairs, maintenance, plumbing, electrical, metal fabrication, and I was also an equipment operator. And I'm used to working with many rules, policies, and procedures, if you can imagine. My wife and I do use a lot of amenities in this community and enjoy the events as well. And I feel it's time for me to give back and focus on the continuous improvements amongst our community. That's what I have.
Thank you, Tom. What we're going to do now is committee members will come up and ask the questions. And again, just for clarification, it'll be the same question, starts at that end, worked its way down, and then the second person, and then it rotates through. So with that said, Allison, come on down.
Okie dokie. What do you believe are the most significant issues for the community in the next 12 to 18 months? Stephanie.
Thank you. There's various concerns and issues that I believe that are going to become very important in the next 12 to 18 months that are definitely going to face this oncoming board as well as the existing board members. 3 of which I can mention. Fiscal concerns, I think definitely working within the budgets and the constraints of the finances that exist currently for the RMA board. Ongoing security issues and concerns I also think have always been prevalent for the RMA board, but I think that they will continue to be an ongoing concern. And then also the development issues I think are going to be a big concern for the board coming up. Over the past few weeks, I've had an opportunity to meet with and speak with various board members from the RMA board, as well as general managers from CSD, as well as the RMA board, as well as meeting with security chiefs and the sergeants through CSD. I've taken the time to understand and delineate their expectations, their concerns, and their needs for the community and what that would entail, so that I can be better educated as to what the issues are. I very much believe at this point that I'm a student. I need to learn the role. I need to learn more of what the issues are, and the people who are experts who have been in these roles for long periods of time, I want to learn from them. In regards to the fiscal concerns, I recognize that the country club and the management as a board member are going to have a huge impact on all of us as community members. And I want to know what resources are available from an RMA board standpoint to assist and help facilitate for improvement over that situation. I want to assure that the country club as well as RMA's role is successful in keeping our community members' best interests at the forefront. I also recognize that the potential for impact on all of our home values, depending on what the outcome is at the country club. I think that's it.
Thank you. Joanne?
If, as an association, we had unlimited funds, then we could solve most of our problems. But we don't. So we have to need to prioritize and find ways to update and bring new amenities to our community without the financial burden falling completely on the members of the association, especially when other parties are going to benefit. And I believe in continuing to improve our park system because it's important. And currently, it seems the country club seems to be the most significant issue facing the community, even though it doesn't fall under RMA. I see the community as a whole, and what affects a lot of people, if the golf course would close, affects our entire community, such as where would we put our recycled water? And how many people would move out of the community to another community that had a golf course? So I hope that situation over there at the country club stabilizes and we can bring back some assurance to the community that we will have at least what we have currently. And those are some of the issues I see facing us.
Thank you. Jim?
I've been fortunate enough to have the time to walk, and first I walked through Rancho Murieta South and then through the north. And when people were outside, I asked them, what's important to you in Rancho Murieta? How does it affect you? And I've got 3 concerns, and one's been brought already, and it's pretty obvious. First is the financial future of the country club, and that's huge. Secondly, I had people come out and say, how do you stand on the lakes? I said, I want to protect the lakes, not only for our water supply, but for recreation. And then finally, we've got the future development of our community. Going on from the development aspect of it, I'm thinking, okay, what are we going to do to make sure we hold the developer accountable? We need to have him adhere to the MBAs, establish minimum size of residents and maximum number size of units. For the growth, but I want responsible growth within the community, realizing that there's going to be impact on the infrastructure of our entire community. Plus, once again, we have to think about the demand on our water supply and the quality of the water. As for the RMA board, we need to be the voice of the community. We need to be able to go to the developers, let them know where the community stands. We need to get involved with CSD and let them know where we stand. Reach out to the country club. And finally, when the time comes, make sure the Sac County Board of Supervisors know where we stand as a community. Yes, due to the recession, the community has, if you look at the master plan, it's been slow to progress. But then if you look at it on a positive side, walking around, I think we've all gained a better appreciation for the lakes, for the trails, for the golf course, the open space, and the serenity of the community. I feel that RMA must play a supporting role in our community, where we actively work with CSD and enhance our communication with them, as well as, once again, the country club, the developer, and the board of supervisors. We need teamwork and communication. And without that in the community, our voice just won't be heard like it should be.
Thank you. And Tom?
I've met with multiple staff members at RMA and CSD to get a general idea of what it takes to be a board member, pardon me, prior to submitting my application. When I applied to be an RMA board member, I was particularly concerned with these areas within our community, which is development, security, RMA finance, and home property values. These are my primary concerns, and that's why I've decided to run for the board. Now, with the most recent information about the country club, that brings an additional priority, and we'll have to see what develops with that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now that new homes are being built in the community, what are your thoughts about development? And we're going to start with Joanne.
The fact that the developers are looking at different options for the second phase of the retreats, I think is a positive sign. Unfortunately, the deal for the country club didn't close, and I know the issue is complicated. However, it was voted on by over 90% of the membership, and it would have brought an updated clubhouse, maybe a pool. And I don't know how anyone would think a pool wouldn't add interest. You know, you have swim teams, you have swim lessons, water aerobics, maybe a teenage lifeguard program, lap swims in the morning. You know, there was just a lot to offer out there. And the developer had the most to lose. They advertised the retreats as country club homes. And the only way I can compare it is looking at like our old front gate on the north compared to the new one that the developer helped put in now. And that's how I see the two visions of what possibly could have been our country club. And people have a lot of choices when it comes to home buying. There's being over 10,000 homes being built in Folsom, but the real competition is what's going up in Plymouth, up at Zinfandel Ridge. There's a developer in Ione who bought 365 acres, and he's building 365 homes. 3-bedroom, 3.5 bath is going for, it's beautiful, high-quality home, right around $600,000, and they're building them on 1/3 and 1/2 acre lots. Now, there's a premium on the lots based on, you know, the difficulty to build and the size, but there was a lot of sold spots on their map. So I think, and because they were building, you know, they're leaving room for environmental features and 2 trail systems, one paved, one unpaved. And that's the competition the developer's looking at just 10 minutes up the road. So I think if I was a developer and someone had suggested that maybe, you know, we could create some unique recreational areas that are as unique as our river, and they could use that as a marketing tool to sell their homes, it might be an idea worth considering.
Thank you. Jim?
I've toured the model homes. I was impressed with the appearance and the overall quality. But once again, we need to hold the developer accountable to the quality of the home, and overall, it can truly enhance our property value. But my concerns is what's going to happen if we have a full build-out, and how is it going to affect our water supply, the infrastructure, and the quality of life that we've come to appreciate within our community. And we have 3 important reports that are going to happen over the next 12 to 18 months. You have the Army Corps of Engineers, the 404 permit, you have the State Water Resources, the 401 permit, and the EIR Environmental Impact Report. All of these reports are very extensive, and we must speak up when it's time for our public input. Communication from our community is a key. And my concern is, not only as, you know, our kids are grown now, but we also have 4 grandkids. So how many more parks and trails are going to be developed when our community keeps on going through the master plan? So that's where I still want to repeat again, teamwork and communication is vital within our community so that we can have an impact and not only on the developer, but with the Sac County Board of Supervisors.
Thank you. Tom?
New development brings benefits and challenges. Different residents will have different viewpoints as to what is a benefit and what is a challenge. As I talk to current and former board members and different residents' concerns, many center around security, water, compliance, traffic, and other concerns. The MBA is a legal document that is the board, excuse me, I'm sorry, I'll start over. The MBA is a legal document that the board and the developer must follow. For new development, I read the agreement twice. It's the most difficult legal agreement I've ever encountered.
Thank you. Stephanie?
Thank you. So my concerns over development moving forward in Rancho Murieta are multifactorial. My first and foremost concern is security within the community. That being, of course, I mentioned that I have 2 small kids. I have friends and family members who have kids as well. We already have security concerns within our community. I think to extrapolate that to having a higher, denser population within the Rancho Murieta gates itself, I think just exacerbates that problem. So one of my questions or one of my concerns would be, how do we address the security issues with the growing population within the gates of Rancho Murieta? My other concerns are sufficient water supply. Just walking around and looking at the lakes as they exist currently, we had a good year for water and rain this past winter, and the lakes are already halfway depleted. So how do we have sufficient water supply to sustain new growth and new development within the community without the lakes being completely dry? And what does that mean for those of us who already live in the community, who enjoy the lakes for fishing or for taking our families out on the boat, or for the kids who are swimming during the summer? So what does that mean, and what does that look like? My other concerns are for responsible development. I myself, in my home that I have, am having problems with the expansive ion clay that's out here. It has an acidic soil, and it has water and drainage issues. So developers that are coming into this community, we don't need a repeat of the issues that happened on the south. We don't need to put new families in those situations where they're going to have problems with new homes that they're spending their hard-earned money on. So how do we, as an RMA board, help those developers should they come into Rancho Murieta not knowing and not having developed within these gates and knowing the specific nature of the soil concerns that are out here? My other concern is basic supply and demand economics. If we have an overabundance of supply, maybe what we've seen within the retreats themselves, what does that mean for the demand coming into the community? I do have concerns that we see that the retreats have sat there, and it's my understanding that they haven't been able to sell those homes. So what does that look like? And our new homes that are coming into the community being able to be built, how does that affect all of our property values?
Thank you.
Hello. So lucky. Hello. What is your understanding of RMAs, RMCSDs, and RMCC's roles in the community? And we're going to start with Jim.
Okay. The RMA enforces the CC&Rs and policies for the facilities, landscaping and architectural review guidelines, and these guidelines facilitate our development while maintaining the integrity and beauty of oak woodland environment. It's a nonprofit agency. The CSD, they're a multi-agency. The employees, they're state employees, they technically retire as PERS. They're responsible for water, sewage, lighting, garbage, security, also responsible for the inspection and maintenance and repair and restoration of dams, spillways, pumping stations, subdrains, and the control and vegetation of aquatic life and growth in the lakes. As for the country club, it's a private facility. It operates and maintains 2 18-hole golf courses, tennis courts, other country club facilities, and they also provide special events and entertainment for the members.
Thank you. Tom?
On one hand, RMA, CSD, and RMCC all have their distinctive roles in our community. But at the end of the day, those roles intersect, and we are all one community. The more the three organizations work together, the better the community will be for all residents. Communication and cooperation is key. We can accomplish more by working together for the betterment of the community. As a RMA board member, if elected, I want to make sure it's fiscally sound, efficient use of members' dues, and maintaining our streets, parks, and amenities that we all enjoy. I'm aware that RMA staff and CSD staff work hand in hand on roadway repairs, water issues, compliance, and security.
Thank you. Stephanie?
Thank you. So my understanding of RMA CSD's role as well as the country club's role in the community is basically that we all work as a team together. It's essential that each of the decisions that each one of the individual entities, as we can see going on right now with the country club, impacts all of us. It can impact RMA and it impacts CSD. An example of the teamwork that these different entities support each other on is the issues at the Front Lake with Lake Joaquin and the recent incident that occurred for the need for cleanup up there. That was a wonderful example of teamwork and a joint effort on RMA's behalf as well as the CSD. I know that it's essential for the machinery to be shared amongst RMA as well as CSD to keep everything financially sound and efficient. I also know the expectations of the RMA board are to carry out some of the other issues that are represented through CSD. For example, the importance of security cameras has come up. It's been voted upon by the RMA board, is my understanding, and CSD will be enforcing and implementing those issues.
Thank you. Joanne?
RMA is the Homeowners Association and is responsible for maintaining and improving our parks and recreational facilities. They also maintain our streets and common areas, and they take care of all our administrative activities that we need to have done as an association. And the RMCSD security officers help RMA with compliance of our CCNRs, respond to residents' calls for assistance, and work with other outside law enforcement and other emergency agencies when needed. They are also the water district that serves Rancho Murieta. And the country club was actually one of the founding features of Rancho Murieta, and it was unique at the time in the fact that we were using recycled to water our country club and our golf courses. And so they've been in our community for a long time, and I see them as a vital role in it, so.
Thank you. Next question. Please expand on your thoughts on the RMA's CCNRs and rules. And we'll start with Tom.
Well, when we all moved into Rancho Murieta, we were all issued a rather large binder of the CCNRs and rules. CCNRs are the association's founding documents. We, as the association, need to be more efficient and consistent with the CCNRs and the rules. We have enough rules. We just need to be more effective with enforcement, which involves RMA, CSD staff to all work together.
Thank you. Stephanie?
Thank you. I'd like to liken the CCNRs to essentially the Constitution that governs Rancho Murieta. It provides a framework and a structure for all of us. As was said earlier, we all received it. Some of us may have read it more thoroughly than others, but I think it's important that it sets a consistent set of expectations and it allows for us to function efficiently. It's up to the RMA, however, to enforce those rules which exist within the CCNRs and to have coordination between RMA board as well as the CSD. Again, as I mentioned earlier, I've met with the security chiefs and general managers and got their input as to how this impacts the CCNRs impact them. And I think it's important to understand that the CCNRs are sufficient as they stand. We just need to be more efficient in implementing those rules and expectations within our community.
Thank you. And Joanne?
The board decisions give guidance to the RMA staff that does the day-to-day work of the associations, and decisions should be based on what's best for the community as a whole and not per individual preferences or leanings. It is also important to do good planning and budgeting. And I believe our CCNR rules are the reason our community is so beautiful and peaceful. It is the commitment to the rest of the community so that we can all enjoy the neighborhood equally. And they are part of the purchase of a home to ensure that standards are kept for the benefit of the neighborhood. The 25-mile-an-hour speed limit makes it safe for people to walk, ride bikes, and drive golf carts on our street. Also important is the curb appeal of our neighborhood and streets. Unkept yards, garbage cans, newspapers piling up, extra cars parked on the streets, litter on the streets and in our parks, all take away from our neighborhood. Homes in a trash-free, well-kept neighborhood tend to be more valuable, and they improve the quality of life for everyone there.
Thank you. And Jim?
Expanding on the RMA, we have the CCNRs and the rules. The RMA, we have the covenants, conditions, rules, and other governing documents, allowing the RMA the powers to protect the peace, health, comfort, safety, and general welfare of the residents. RMA also pays taxes and assessments, contracts insurance on the behalf of the HOA, contracts goods or services for common areas, delegates powers to the committees, formulates rules of operations for common areas and facilities, prepares budgets and financial statements, conducts disciplinary proceedings of HOA rule violations. Yes, the HOA and the CCRs give us a uniform community that is beautiful and secure. And finally, good fiscal responsibility is an important factor with the daily operation of RMA.
Thank you.
Okay, last question. If you are elected, what are your expectations as a board member? Which committees would you be interested in serving on and why? And we'll start with Stephanie.
Thank you. Thank you all for your time again this evening. I wanted to reiterate that my expectations, should you choose to elect me as a board member going forward, would be to uphold the interests of those people that I represent. As I mentioned earlier, it's very important to me to represent the multiple generations that are out here in the Rancho Murieta community. The older generation, the families, the younger children as well, and keep all of those interests at heart. I fully recognize that my vote is representative of that of the community of which I represent, not my own personal beliefs and my own personal values. I'm definitely interested, after meeting with the general manager of RMA, in the Parks and the Recreations Committee and how that impacts all of us, as well as the fiscal and the security and the rules out here in Rancho Murieta. I also would be interested in the possibility of an ad hoc committee to evaluate how RMA can assist in the issues which are facing the country club, how we all can come together with open minds and open doors and help to solve this problem so that it's beneficial to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Joanne?
I believe it will be my responsibility to make decisions based on reliable information and consideration for what will be good for the community. I believe it's important to work together as a board to have consistent policies and to make sure that members of the association are well represented with other agencies doing business with RMA. One committee I'd be interested in serving in is the Parks Committee. Our parks are one of our best assets, used by many residents, and are important for our community. Also, the current trail map submitted by the developer includes open space trails. RMA will have to decide how they're going to deal with these trails in the future, and I think I could be helpful in developing a plan. Another committee I'd be interested in serving on is compliance. I have work experience in this area, and I believe it is the responsibility of all residents to want to comply with the CCRs and rules. It is an important lesson to learn, especially when you're young, that there are going to be many rules and laws throughout your life that you're going to need to deal with. And probably not everybody's going to be happy with every decision when there's a penalty. But if you base it on the CCRs and rules and apply it fairly, then I think you have done the best thing you can do for future board members who will serve on the compliance committees. And I would hope that the outgoing committee members would help us in the transition to our new committees.
Thank you. Jim?
If elected, my expectations as a board member is to, first of all, and most importantly, to listen to the concerns of the community. And doing that, I want to promote good communication between RMA, the CSD, the Country Club, our developer, and County Board of Supervisors. With my degree and work experience, I feel comfortable chairing the Finance Committee as my first choice. I'm very analytical and I pay attention to details. I also want to stress the importance of teamwork and communication, and this is needed in all committees. After that, I'd gladly serve on either the Parks, Recreation, or any other committee that would be open.
Thank you. Okay, Tom?
I would expect and hope that all three organizations will work together I would expect all three organizations will work together and with the developer if need be to address the issues that face our community. With over 40 years of experience in the manufacturing and government sector, a large part of my responsibilities were being involved with audits, including production, safety, procedures, as well as rules, and that had to be followed and enforced. My interest would be compliance or governing documents committee.
Thank you very much.
We're going to, for those folks in the audience, the couple thousand that are here, if you have questions, please write them down. We're going to come around and pick them up. So we're probably going to be about 5 or 7 minutes. We have a host bar that's open. It's done by CSD, and that's part of our cooperative that we have with them. So give us a few minutes, mingle, we'll be back. Questions, a couple of issues with the questions. As an outgoing board member for 6 years, probably 3 of those questions, technically we don't have an answer. So I am not going to even attempt to ask new board members that don't even understand the ramifications of what those questions were. So, yes. Can we get one more chair up here? So with that said, we've got 2 questions, and we'll start with the original order of what question 1 would be, and then question 2 would be, and we go from that standpoint. So we're going to start off with Stephanie, and the question is, should RMA have a role with the Rancho Murieta Country Club for their financial issues? Did you want me to put that to you in writing? Oh, go ahead.
I'm being a student. So in order to answer that question, I don't know that I have sufficient information in my knowledge base right now. As I mentioned earlier in the questions, I feel it's really important to be a student in this role, being an oncoming potential candidate as a board member. I've been reading a lot about the financial implications in the country club, as well as the debt that's owed. I do see the benefit in working together as a community to come up with creative and innovative ideas on how to support the country club and how the country club benefits our communities and our home values. So I do see benefit to supporting that, whether that, I don't know if that means necessarily financially. I don't think that I'm willing to commit to that at this point. I do know that all generations in this community are going to have financial concerns, and I don't know that the community members are willing to own that debt or share that debt for the country club. And I don't know yet that I know what that looks like, but I do know that it's important to be open-minded, to have open ears to all potential solutions to solve these problems. And again, as I said, my vote would be representative of the community for which I represent. So talking to community members and what their thoughts, and obviously there's many more people that are more knowledgeable than I on this issue. So having open ears.
Thank you. Joanne, same question. Should RMA have a role with RMCC with their financial issues?
Well, at this time, I think it'd be premature to make that kind of a commitment because I don't think all options as far as the country club have been explored. I think there's a great benefit to the developers to ensure that we have a financially stable, attractive country club. I think that can only benefit them. There's a lot of members in the community that also belong to the country club. And so their concerns, should be heard. I think there should be other solutions than making every member of the association possibly liable for the country club and how that would look like. And I think we definitely need to do a study on it and see what our options might be. Because there might be other agencies within Rancho Murieta that could also help.
Okay, thank you. Jim, same question. Should RMA have a role with RMCC with their financial issues?
For the financial aspect of it, I look at RMA and where do our funds come from? They come from our HOA dues. So as a community, I also looked at the reports where 57% of the community, they don't belong to the country club. I know right now that, and as Joanne put it nicely, more options need to be looked at. The developer needs to step forward, or some other people need to step forward. I know recently something was put on RanchoMurieta.com about the CSD potentially purchasing the country club. I thought that was rather, it's a new idea. I'm open for anything to help the country club because, as it's been mentioned, if the country club isn't successful and if it shuts down, our property values can easily decrease 10 to 20%. But on the flip side too, I'm thinking, okay, we've got a country club here and it needs to be open to new ideas and change. So right now I'm thinking off the top of my head, we've got, as a community, and that's CSD, the country club, RMA, and the developer. We need collaboration, compromise, community cohesion. We need to get input from the entire community on where they stand and where they want to fiscally put their money, and communication. Can't overemphasize we need input from the entire community.
Thank you. Tom, should RMA have a role with RMCC's financial issues?
Well, certainly I think they should be looked at and have, whatever you have to do to work together to maybe achieve a common goal and figure out what part you want to put with it.
Okay.
I think it's a pretty complicated question at this point without a lot of information, but it should be open for discussion and looked at.
Very good, thank you. Okay, question number 2, and we're going to go with Joanne, Jim, Stephanie. Are you a member of Solos, and do you support its goals?
Well, I am a proud member of Solos, and I certainly, what I support is the awareness we have brought to the community as far as important environmental issues. I don't know if anybody had an opportunity to attend our Halloween environmental fair a few years back, but you will see some of that information on my website. But things like the expensive clay issues that we incurred on a county-approved plan. 200 foundations failed on the south. You know, the blue oak trees are important for more reason than just their beauty. They actually sustain the environment and all the animals and birds that live within them. I don't see us as being anti-development as an organization, Solos. I see us as an awareness organization, and so I'm proud of my work with them.
Thank you. Jim, are you a member of Solos, and do you support its goals?
Yes, I am a member of Solos. And probably the nicest way to put it is Solos does represent trying to protect the lakes, our environment, but they still want responsible development. I'm pro-growth. But on the flip side, I also want the developer or developers, whoever it's going to be, they need to be held accountable. And I'll go back to the Army Corps engineer, State Water Resources, and the EIR. There's so much information where you get into hazardous waste, the type of soil, contamination, the infrastructure. So to say, you know, don't hold anything against you if you're a member of Solos, because I think everyone in here is concerned about your water quality and the air you breathe.
Thank you. Tom, are you a member of Solos, and do you support its goals?
Yes, I'm a member. I signed up when they first came out. I like to think I'm a little independent thinker about anyone's goals, so I watch that carefully. I do love the outdoor spaces here, and development should be controlled as it normally would be, like per the MBA. So as far as I'm concerned, that's already got its roadmap, and I like to think that I'm independent on the issues.
Thank you. Stephanie, are you a member of Solos, and do you support its goals?
I currently am not a member of Solos. However, I do feel that I have some common concerns, as I discussed earlier, that are shared with the Solos group. I have had the opportunity to meet with members of the Solos group and understand some of their concerns, their outlooks, and how that would impact our community. My family and friends within the community do enjoy the outdoor space. We do make use of the trails, the parks, the recreational activities, fishing at the lakes and those types of things. So I do see the value and the importance for all of our community members. But as does Solos, I do see concerns with growth and development within the community. As I mentioned earlier, other candidates have mentioned. I personally have soil concerns out here with growth and development and bringing in developers who are not familiar with the issues that are unique to Rancho Murieta and the ion clay, the expansive soil and the acidic properties and natures of it. So not being a member, but do having similar concerns.
Thank you. Excuse me. That concludes tonight. I wish you the best of luck on the rest of your campaign For those of us out in TV land, please get your ballots in. The early registration or the early voting, there are prizes to win. I think there's 6 of them. I know 4 of them go to the committee members. I think that leaves 2 for the rest of the association. The only thing I'll remind you is please put your signs out, but make sure they're on private property, not on RMA property. Otherwise, I wish the best of luck to you. Thank you for your time, and thank you for putting your name out there and willing to help the community. Thank you.
Thank you.